Okay, hello everyone, Dr. Maiden here, bringing you more requested content during my virtual office hours here. And the topic for today is finding a job with my new PhD. Okay, so it feels kind of weird to do this one. Like I said, this was requested content, so someone, probably more than someone out there is asking about this. How do I actually find a job with my PhD? It feels a little weird to do it in this current economic political climate because the job market is really bad. And so before I actually dive into finding a job with my PhD, I want to give that disclaimer to everybody. Sorry, I don't know why I'm holding my pen up like this. I'll hold it down. I want to give that disclaimer to everybody that the job market is not great. COVID has really made things quite difficult. And so I wouldn't take it from me necessarily as someone who is, rather recently on the other side of the job market search, but I would ask around, even as you're considering beginning a program. For those of you that are already midstream in a program, I'm sorry, there's nothing else to do. You got to just keep trying to get to the end of the line there. But I would ask around before you're beginning a program and just hear from people that are inside in your particular research area. You might not be on my channel right now as a political scientist. You're just curious what you can do with a PhD. And even within the discipline of political science, the market looks very different for whether you're a political theory person versus American versus IR, etc. So I would ask around people that are currently in the market to know what it really looks like to be inside of it. That's not what the purpose of this video is, but I do know from people that I have asked that it's not great. It is not great. There is not a lot of option. People that would have been looking in academia are feeling forced to have to expand and look in industry positions because it's just really tough. If you're thinking of all of the different cutbacks and budget cuts and things that are happening at public institutions in particular, it's not a great time for hiring. It doesn't mean it will never be a great time, but right now it's not great. I won't say more about that to scare you off. I am actually going to go into assuming that there are jobs, and there definitely are. What I'll show you is there definitely are jobs that you can find in political science with a PhD. Some of these you also don't have to have a PhD, but most of them are good. It's going to help. It's going to help your chances for sure. So basically what I've done is I've broken this. I have 7 things I'm going to give you. I've broken it into 2 categories because, as I've already hinted, there's 2 directions you can really think of going when you're coming out of a PhD program. Even though most departments anywhere are going to tell you there's only one direction that counts, and that's to stay in academia, right? We've put all this work into you, all this energy, time, resources. Our expectation is that you're going to give back to the world of academia, stay in academia, become a professor. That's what most people enter academia, particularly in a discipline like political science. That's what most people tend to gravitate towards, but not all. And we should really try and remove the taboo and demystify and, kind of stop penalizing people that want to go all the way to the end with a PhD and go into industry with it. It is perfectly acceptable in so many other disciplines for someone to get a PhD and never come back to academia with it. Particularly, I'm thinking of things like STEM disciplines. We should really demystify that idea, I think, in political science. Not quite there yet. So my first batch of options for you are going to be staying in the world of academia. Okay, I have 2 for you that are going to be your stalwart places to look. Again, I'm talking to people that are political science because I was political science and political science. So the first place that you're going to look to find a job is going to be the APSA eJobs network. And I'm going to link that down below. APSA, the American Political Science Association. Get yourself an account. It's cheap as a student, and sometimes even your university will pay for it for you. Get yourself an account. It is a site that is active all around, or year round, because you have all kinds of things that can come up where suddenly they need a part-time lecturer, they need someone to quickly fill a position. It can be summer teaching, it can be semester only, it can be a year contract, and then you can find things like assistant and associate tenure track positions. So absolutely, you are going to be active on APSA using the eJobs website. Similar to that, there's going to be a lot of repetitiveness, but you may just find some diversity of options on the higher ed jobs website. Higher ed jobs, again, I'll link that down below. So higher ed jobs can be a useful one if you're like me, that you are not necessarily stuck in one discipline, that you could look elsewhere, right? I was able to cast a wider net, that I not only, the bulk of my work was going to be focusing on political science jobs, but I could also do peace studies jobs. I could do international affairs type jobs, like global affairs type jobs, African and Africana studies jobs, gender related jobs, gender and gender studies jobs. So I was able to cast a bit wider net. And in that case, APSA is not going to catch all those for me. So I used higher ed jobs as another place that I could look to find relevant jobs for me that are interesting. And so there, you're just going to use the keyword search to narrow things down, get the disciplines that interest you, etc., and go from there. A third option for you is going to be something that's either like a regional expertise or country specific expertise. And in this case, I'm thinking of something like, for me, African Studies Association. Because I'm a member of the African Studies Association, I go to the annual conferences. They also post job boards that are specific to jobs across African studies. So granted, it might be something like dance or theater or English, but if any of them were remotely relevant to what I do, it was another place that I could look for an academic job, okay? So that's APSA, higher ed jobs, and then regional or country or issue specific organizations you might be a part of. So you could think of something like the International Studies Association. They absolutely have a job board as well. You can even look within things like APSA, you can look for specialized positions. It might be if you are, like, I know for a fact they have them for like kind of like women in political science committee. I know they have one for like I can't remember the acronym for it, but it's basically like African American political scientists. So whether you're grad students or faculty, they'll have those specialized kind of like niche communities that you can be in. I'm in one that it's called something like Gender and Security Studies. So that they even have an active Facebook group. And so they're always posting things, not always even just nationally. You'll get international postings on those types of boards as well. So that's actually, I guess I could say, a fourth category is like niche groups, niche communities of academics that you're a part of, where they'll be posting things that are specifically relevant, whether it's relevant to you in your position as a female or a veteran or whatever it is, or it's relevant to the research that you do. Like, hey, I do gender and security studies, and I'm in a Facebook group where all of us do the same thing, and we'll share things when it becomes relevant. That's another good place to look for jobs that are going to be academic jobs that you can transition into when you're on the market. I'm going to pause then and say, let's look at the other side of this. Let's look at the industry side. What are some of the jobs, job search, job engines that you can look at that are going to be relevant for political science and that may or may not require you to have a PhD? So not all of these are going to be great. Some of them are even going to be something that it's like, I could have Googled that and found that, right? But just to get you started, some places that you can look for industry specific jobs that are not going to be academia. So the first one would be something like, there's a website that's called politicalJobHunt.com. This one you might be in the weeds a little bit, especially if you Googled it right now. Basically all you're going to see is like part-time like campaign canvassing positions. So it's like $15 an hour for part-time. We only need you for the next 13 days, right? So you'll go through the weeds a little bit, but the point of this website, politicalJobHunt.com, again, I'm going to link it down below, is it's all politics, policy related positions. You are going to be in the weeds a little bit looking for something that might meet your expertise level coming out with a PhD, but it's a place to start looking. Another one, if you're thinking industry and you're thinking public service, you're going to be looking at state websites, federal websites, something like usajobs.gov. So whether, there's going to be all kinds of positions that are going to be posted at the state level and at the federal level. Again, it might take some fishing for you to see what's going to be relevant to you. In most of the cases, the websites will have keyword searches as well that you can do to narrow down your focus so that you don't have to go through 10,000 open positions in the federal government, some of which might be a nurse technician at a military base, and others might be something like working with USAID, right? Another one that you can do, again, where I said, well, I could have just Googled that. You can find stuff doing a general search. I happened to find a interim job that I got while I was still finishing my grad degree. I was a part-time lecturer. I found that job by just Googling it. And so you could do an engine search, just general engine searches on things like Glassdoor, Monster. They will also post jobs that way. So if you don't want to go the route of APSA and the eJobs portal, which I think is ridiculous, I think you should have that, you can still find those types of jobs and other political science jobs on doing a general search through something like Glassdoor or Monster. The last one then that I'll mention that's a little bit unique again is going to be specific to if you're interested in like international development, international peace. There is a website that's called devx.com. I'll link that one down below. And it is, again, they have a great eJobs portal where they've got, I'm looking at it right now, it's showing results 1 to 20 of almost 6,000 positions. So it's everything from, like, this one was posted 4 days ago, Senior Democracy Rights and Governance and Conflict Management Mitigation Advisor for USAID, a position in Guinea. There's a public affairs specialist position for the Development Finance Corporation. There's a specialist in water, sanitation, and hygiene, again for the USAID, this time in Ethiopia. So you can go through and find all kinds of positions, everything from, this one says Senior Environmental Technician, it's a position in Canada, Monitoring, Evaluation, and Learning Lead in Timor-Leste, Business Development Specialist for Catholic Relief Services. There's all kinds of positions in all kinds of, maybe not necessarily political science, but maybe something that overlaps for you. If you like data, if you like social media, communications, there's lots of positions right now that would be really primed to have someone savvy with political communication and able to navigate not only the policy process, but something like the social media world, and being able to bring a nonprofit or bring a government agency more firmly into that world to be assisting with grants and fundraising and policy and education and all of these things. So you can see a lot of them will have aspects of data officer, social media officer, communications officer, but a lot of them are going to be really squarely relevant to political science majors writ large, and then several of them often are higher up positions that you could be quite competitive as someone with a PhD. But it's, again, a little bit of mining. You got to do some digging, and that is devx.com. Okay, so I don't want this to get too long. That was 2 branches, right? 2 avenues you can go, academic and industry, and within those I ended up doing 4 for each options that you can take a look at for what do I do once I get my PhD, what direction can I go, and where can I actually start looking to find that job coming out of my PhD program. I hope this was useful. Comment down below if you have other questions. Comment down below if you have other ideas for content you want me to do, and I will see you in my office hours the next time that I'm here.